You know that specific kind of anxiety you get when you decide, okay, this is the year.
Oh, yeah.
This is the year I'm finally going to upskill.
Right, the dreaded resolution.
Exactly. And you open up like a roadmap to tech article or maybe just a standard job description for a data role.
And it just hits you.
It hits you like a physical weight. I mean, it's not a curriculum. It looks like a ransom note.
It really is the everything, everywhere, all at once problem.
Yes.
Because you look at it and you see Python, R, SQL, Tableau, Power BI, AWS, Azure, and then maybe they throw in some machine learning for good measure.
Just in case you weren't intimidated enough.
Exactly.
It feels like if you didn't start coding in your basement when you were 12 years old, you're already 10 years too late.
Which is such a discouraging feeling.
It's an alphabet soup of acronyms. It really makes you just want to close the laptop and walk away.
Yeah, but that is exactly why I wanted to pull this specific case study for our deep dive today.
Right. We are looking at the career journey of Folorunso Ajala.
And this is, I think, a perfect case study for anyone out there who is feeling that imposter syndrome right now.
Because he's doing great things now.
Oh, absolutely. He is currently a data analyst at Bluechip Technologies, doing really high-level work.
Yeah.
But his story isn't that standard, a computer science prodigy narrative.
Right.
He don't come out of the womb knowing Java.
No, and that is exactly the hook here.
Yeah.
Because his background is actually in business administration.
Right.
He didn't start out caring about syntax or algorithms. He started out obsessed with a very specific, very human business problem.
Which was, why do startups fail?
Exactly. Why do so many of them crash and burn within the first 5 to 10 years?
Which is a massive high-stakes question to tackle.
It is. And he wanted to be the consultant who fixes that, who saves those businesses.
But he realized pretty quickly that you can't fix a failing business with just, gut instinct.
Or good vibes.
Right. You need a diagnostic tool. And for him, he realized that tool had to be data analysis.
So the mission for today's deep dive is to basically reverse engineer that transition.
Exactly.
We want to figure out how a non-technical professional actually moves into a heavy-duty data role without completely burning out.
And looking at the research we've gathered, his journey seems to break down into 3 main pillars.
Right. So we have the information overload trap.
Basically how to learn when there's just too much to learn.
Then we have the secret sauce, which completely challenges the idea that coding is the most important skill.
Spoiler alert on that one, it's not.
It really isn't. And finally, we have a genuinely compelling case study on ATM optimization.
That case study is so good. It's a perfect example of how data busts long-held business myths.
It really shows the difference between being just a coder and being a true problem solver.
Absolutely. So let's start with that first pillar, the trap.
Because I think this is where most people quit before they even really start.
Yeah.
So Folorunso's in university. He's studying business admin. And he decides he needs these data skills to solve his startup failure problem.
Right.
What happens next?
Well, he did what almost everyone does. He tried to boil the ocean.
Oh, no.
Yeah. He looked at the market demand and thought, I must acquire all of these skills simultaneously.
It was the kid in a candy store approach.
Yeah.
But the candy is incredibly difficult programming languages.
Precisely. He was just jumping between languages, tools, platforms. One day it's Python.
Right.
The next day is Excel macros. Then he reads some blog about R and suddenly switches to that.
It's exhausting just hearing about it.
He describes that period of his life as feeling scattered and frustrated.
It's the classic shiny object syndrome.
Yeah.
You end up with this really surface level understanding of everything, but mastery of absolutely nothing.
Right.
Like you can say hello world in 5 different languages,
Yeah.
but you can't actually build a functional dashboard.
And that leads straight to analysis paralysis. You feel like you're working incredibly hard, but you aren't actually moving forward.
So how did he break out of that?
His breakthrough came when he stopped trying to be a generalist right out of the gate.
Okay.
He pivoted to a much more strategic, sequential approach. And the key word here really is discipline.
Discipline to ignore the noise.
Exactly. He forced himself to filter out all those distractions and focus on just one tool at a time.
Okay, so what was the first tool? Because I feel like everyone debates this endlessly online. Python versus SQL.
He chose SQL, structured query language.
Interesting. Why start there? I mean,
Yeah.
Why not something visual and rewarding like Power BI or something super versatile like Python?
Because SQL is the foundation. It's literally how you talk to the database to get the raw information out in the first place.
That makes sense.
If you can't query the data, you can't visualize it. And you certainly can't analyze it.
So he didn't even touch the fancy visualization tools until he had a handle on querying.
Correct. Only after mastering SQL did he allow himself to move on to Power BI.
The insight there is all about sequencing.
Yeah.
It's like, don't try to build the roof before you've poured the concrete foundation.
Right. It's realizing that mastery is a timeline. It's not a checklist you have to frantically complete by Friday.
He stopped worrying about what he didn't know yet.
Which frees up so much mental energy.
That is actually a huge relief to hear. You don't have to be a Swiss Army knife on day one.
Exactly. You just need to be a really good knife.
I love that.
Oh.
And once you are a good knife, then you can learn how to be a screwdriver.
Perfectly said.
Okay, so let's say one of our listeners follows that advice. They learn SQL, they get good at a visualization tool like Power BI.
Okay.
They are technically competent. Is that enough to get hired?
Usually, no.
Wow. That is incredibly depressing.
I know, but it's reality. And this brings us right to the second pillar.
Which is probably the most misunderstood part of the entire data industry.
Without a doubt. There is a secret sauce to getting hired, and it usually isn't the code itself.
This is where we have to talk about soft skills. But let me play devil's advocate for a second here.
Go for it.
Everyone always says soft skills matter. But when I look at actual job boards, they aren't testing for communication or empathy.
Right.
They're giving you a whiteboard test on Python scripts.
Ah.
So is this soft skill thing actually true in practice?
It absolutely is true, but maybe not in the fluffy way people think.
Okay.
It's not just about being nice or friendly. Folorunso highlights a very specific list of overlooked skills.
What's on the list?
Communication, teamwork, critical thinking. And this is the really big one-domain knowledge.
Let's unpack domain knowledge,
Yeah.
because that connects perfectly back to his whole business admin background.
Exactly. Think about it this way. In the data world, I can teach a smart person how to write a complex SQL query in a few weeks.
Sure.
That's just syntax, it's logic, it's rules.
Yeah.
But I cannot easily teach someone the deep nuances of supply chain logistics, or the highly specific regulatory environment of corporate banking.
Or consumer psychology in a really niche retail market.
Precisely.
So if you don't understand the business, you don't actually know what you're looking for when you stare at the numbers.
You are flying blind. You might see a metric go down and sound the alarm, thinking it's a catastrophe.
But a domain expert looks at that same number and knows it's just a normal seasonal fluctuation.
Right. Folorunso emphasizes that understanding the industry context is the only thing that allows you to interpret the data accurately.
Because he had that business administration background, he wasn't just pulling reports.
He was diagnosing actual business health.
This links perfectly to another concept he talks about a lot, which is data storytelling.
Yes.
It can feel like a bit of a corporate buzzword, though. What does he actually mean by it?
He defines it essentially as the translation layer.
Okay.
So you have a technical finding. Let's say your query shows that sales are down 5% in a specific region.
That's just a fact. That's the data.
Right. But the story is the why, the so what, and the what next.
Oh, I see. So instead of just handing a CEO a dense spreadsheet and saying, here is the data.
Which they will hate.
Right. Instead of that, you're saying customer retention is dropping in the Northeast because of shipping delays caused by weather, and here's how we reroute logistics to fix it.
Exactly. Without that narrative story, data is just pure noise to a non-technical stakeholder.
They don't know what to do with it.
And this requires that critical thinking skill he listed. You have to actively question your own data.
Because just because a query returns a result doesn't mean it actually reflects reality.
Right.
Which is the absolute perfect setup for our third pillar.
A case
study.
Oh, yes.
Because this ATM story is essentially a masterclass in questioning reality and challenging assumptions.
It really is. This is his ATM optimization strategy project.
Set the scene for us. What was the actual problem the client was facing?
So Folorunso is looking at an entire ATM network automated teller machines. And the business, likely a bank or a major fintech client, is in crisis mode.
Okay.
Their ATMs are performing terribly.
And when you say performing terribly, I assume that means they aren't dispensing cash, they're constantly crashing, screens are frozen, that sort of thing.
Correct. Customers are incredibly unhappy. Transactions are failing left and right.
A nightmare for a bank.
And the business had a very strong, deeply held assumption about why this was happening.
Let me guess. The machines are broken.
Yep. Their prevailing belief was simply, Our machines are broken.
I mean, that seems logical. If a machine isn't working, you blame the hardware, or you blame the mechanic who's supposed to fix it.
Right. They thought it was technical faults, bad hardware, or that the maintenance teams were just way too slow to respond to tickets.
Their solution was probably just, we need to hire better repair crews.
Exactly. But Folorunso didn't just take their word for it.
He didn't just accept the assumption.
No. And this is where the real data investigation comes in. He didn't just look at the error logs in isolation. He looked at the whole picture.
What kind of data points was he pulling?
He pulled transaction logs, withdrawals, deposits. He looked at usage patterns, specifically isolating peak times. And crucially, he looked at operational metrics mapped against geographical spread.
Okay, so he's looking at where these failing machines are actually located.
Right.
And what did the data actually show?
It revealed this fascinating, completely counterintuitive pattern.
Yeah.
The ATMs in less populated, more rural areas, they had incredibly high success rates. They were working perfectly fine.
So the hardware wasn't inherently flawed.
No. But the ATMs in high-density areas, specifically the ones located right near university campuses, those were the ones constantly failing.
Okay, wait. So the machines near the college students were the ones breaking down? Was it vandalism? Or just terrible luck?
See, that's what you might naturally think if you just looked at the locations, but the data pointed to something entirely different. Yes, volume. The root cause wasn't that the machines were broken in the traditional sense of a manufacturing defect. The issue was frequent, massive overuse.
Wow. So they were basically being loved to death.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
The sheer traffic in these urban, student-heavy areas was completely overwhelming the machine's design capacity.
They weren't built for that many swipes an hour.
Right. They were running out of cash way faster. The card readers were physically wearing out from friction, and the maintenance teams couldn't keep up with the cycle because the demand was just relentless.
So it wasn't a technical failure at all.
No.
It was actually a success disaster. The machines were just too popular.
That is a brilliant way to put it. It was a success disaster. The prevailing belief that they needed better mechanics was fundamentally wrong.
If they had just kept sending technicians out there to fix wires and replace screens, they never would have actually solved the problem.
They would have just been burning money on repair crews forever.
So what was his solution? Once he proved this with the data,
Once the data told that story that this was a capacity issue, not a repair issue, the entire business strategy shifted.
they stopped blaming the repair guys.
Exactly. They didn't just try to fix the machines faster. They changed the operational management of the network.
Meaning what?
They installed more ATMs in those specific high-traffic zones to spread the load.
Oh, load balancing, just like server traffic.
Exactly like server traffic, but in the physical world. And they also adjusted the maintenance protocols.
So instead of waiting for a machine to break,
They became proactive based on that high-volume data rather than purely reactive.
That is so smart. And the result?
Hmm.
Did it work?
Hugely enhanced customer satisfaction and retention. The lines for the students got shorter, the machine stayed online longer, and the banks stopped bleeding money on emergency repairs.
I just love that story because it perfectly validates that domain knowledge point we were talking about earlier.
It really does.
A pure coder, someone who just lives in the terminal, might have just tried to optimize the error reporting software.
Right, they would have built a better alert system for when the machine died.
But a true business analyst looks at how the machine is being used by real humans in the real world.
It highlights that his job wasn't just to generate a report saying ATM downtime is currently at 40%. His job was to find out why.
That shift from technical repair to strategic placement, that is the real value of a data analyst.
Absolutely.
But you can't really do this kind of transformative work in a vacuum, can you? You need a company culture that actually wants to hear the truth, even if it contradicts what the executives think.
And that brings us to the culture piece of his journey. Folorunso is very vocal about the concept of democratizing data.
Now, democratizing data sounds great on a LinkedIn post, but what does it actually mean in practice? Are you just giving everyone in the company the admin password to the database?
Definitely not. That would be a disaster.
Right.
It means giving people access to the specific insights that are relevant to them. He talks about moving away from those massive, generic 50-page PDF reports that nobody actually reads.
The ones that just sit in an inbox forever.
Exactly. Instead, his action plan was developing intuitive dashboards tailored to specific teams.
So the marketing team gets a dashboard with marketing metrics. The ops team gets their own ops metrics.
Right. It empowers them to interpret their own data. He effectively gave them the tools to do their own daily diagnostics.
And did it work? Did it change the culture?
He cites a very specific result from this approach. By using targeted solutions and getting the right data to the right people without a bottleneck, they improved customer retention by 15% on a project.
15% is huge in any established business. That is significant measurable impact.
It really is. And he credits a specific book for shaping his perspective on this whole cultural aspect.
Oh, what book?
It's called Creating a Data-Driven Organization. He says reading that fundamentally changed how he viewed his role.
In what way?
He stopped seeing himself as just a worker bee fulfilling ticket requests and started seeing himself as a culture builder within the company.
We will definitely have to add creating a data-driven organization to the listener reading list.
For sure.
But speaking of learning and growing, we really can't talk about Folorunso's journey without talking about the people who helped him get there.
Mentorship.
He calls it the absolute cornerstone of his professional growth.
I feel like get a mentor is advice we hear constantly in tech.
Yeah.
But it is so hard to actually execute. People are afraid to ask for help. They think they need to figure it all out alone or they're going to look weak to their peers.
And that isolation is often exactly why they burn out and quit.
Right.
Folorunso shares a great story about an early mentor who sat down and simplified complex SQL concepts for him.
Just breaking down the jargon.
Yes. And he said it turned his fear and overwhelm into actual excitement. That is the true power of a good teacher. They don't just transfer knowledge, they transfer confidence.
Did he name names? I always like to give credit where it's due on this show.
He did, actually.
Yeah.
He specifically mentioned Bukola Farai, Adewale Yusuf, and Ahmed Oyelawo.
That's great. He credits them with helping him avoid the early pitfalls, like that information overload we discussed in the first pillar, and keeping him focused on meaningful, achievable goals.
It's interesting he also mentions that receiving that mentorship instilled a deep desire in him to give back, too. It becomes a cycle.
You get help, then you help others.
Exactly. But what if a listener doesn't have access to people like Adewale or Ahmed locally? What if they're the only person in their town trying to learn this stuff?
Folorunso has some very practical advice on that, too. He calls it digital mentorship.
Which means what, exactly? Just watching YouTube tutorials?
It's broader than that. It's about curating your feed. If your social media is just full of noise, arguments, and distractions, you are going to be distracted. Right. But if you intentionally fill it with data experts sharing tips, discussing case studies, you start to learn by osmosis.
You change your environment.
Yes. He suggests actively following influential individuals who share content aligned with your specific career goals.
So you basically turn your doom scrolling into studying.
Exactly. Let the algorithm work for you. And he also explicitly recommends the Maven Analytics platform for structured learning.
Oh, Maven is great for that hands-on, real-world scenario stuff.
It really is.
It's way less. Here's a textbook definition of a SQL join, and much more here is a very messy, realistic data set. Go clean it up.
Which mimics the actual day-to-day job perfectly.
So let's bring this all together. We have gone from a business admin student who was just worried about startups failing
to a high-level data analyst solving massive infrastructure problems for banks.
It is really a journey of convergence. He didn't abandon his business background to become a tech guy. He weaponized it.
That is a great way to put it. He weaponized his past experience.
He used his understanding of business failure to drive his curiosity in data. He overcame the panic of having to learn everything by just focusing on learning the next right thing.
And he used his soft skills to turn his technical analysis into actual, actionable business strategy.
So what does this all mean for our listener today? If you're sitting there right now, maybe you're in a non-tech role thinking about making the jump, but you're just intimidated by the wall of code.
So what here is that data analytics is not about hoarding technical tools.
Right.
It is not about who knows the most obscure Python library or who can write the most complex script from memory. It is purely about solving business problems.
You don't need to be a genius coder. You need to be a genius problem solver.
Exactly. If you can look at a problem, pick the right tool for the job, even if that tool is just basic SQL, and tell the right story to the right person, you are incredibly valuable.
The code is just the means to the end.
Always.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with something to really think about. We talked extensively about the ATM story.
Where everyone assumed it was a technical failure, but it was actually a success disaster.
Right. So here's a provocative question I would like you to ask yourself in your own work this week.
What is a problem you are currently assuming is a technical failure? Something you think is broken, buggy, or just incompetent?
That might actually be a success disaster.
Are your internal systems breaking down because they are inherently bad? Or are they breaking because they're being used in ways or at volumes that you never originally anticipated?
Because if that's the case, the solution isn't to fix the code.
The solution is to scale the business.
And that is where the job gets really interesting. Folorunso Ajala, thank you for sharing your incredible journey with the world, and thank you all for listening to this deep dive.
Keep questioning those assumptions.
See you next time.